Let me just check it on YouTube. And it is not showing up. No, there we go. All right. Okay, looks like we're live. All right. So this is a channel that is actually her channel name, although she has I'm not really sure what she calls herself, but she says laywoman's opinion in some of her videos, but her channel name is let me go back. The signing speaker. So anyway, but a few weeks ago she put out a video called why the Bible or why religion is not unscientific. And I was going to do a reaction video to that and kind of discuss some of the things that she talked about in that video. And then today she dropped this video. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and react to this one kind of just off the off the cuff. Whereas the other one I'd like written up some notes and taken some notes of what I wanted to talk about. But let's get into this. And I'm going to, while I'm listening to this, I'm going to make sure that it's showing up on my stream.
Natasha, and welcome to Laywoman's Opinion. So today I'm going to do a slightly different kind of video. I've been posting some videos about somewhat controversial topics over the last couple of months, especially where religion is concerned, science and religion. Some of the videos I made were actually responses to comments I got, but I just felt that I couldn't really get into every single argument that people presented to me just by making a video to address the topic, because I always end up, of course, expanding on it. And while I still may make videos to continue that, it's been suggested to me that it might just be more effective to make a video responding to your comments. So that's what this video is, as you can see from the title. If you're a return viewer and happen to be one of the people who commented this, thank you for your interest in my videos. It's appreciated. If you're new to this, well, hey, leave me a comment with a question and you may get into like the next one, because I think I'm going to do 2 or 3 of these at least, because I want to give due diligence to the comments I got, and some of them are going to require more complicated answers. So because of that, I'm probably going to only do 3 or 4 for this video, and then I'll probably make another video next week or sometime later this month attacking some of the other ones. So because of that, if you want to put yours in, I can like add that to my list. All right. Most of the ones I think I'll be doing today are going to relate to the scientific video. So most of them are going to be from my video comment section for religion is not unscientific. Some of them might be from my Do We Need God to Be Moral. So feel free to check both those videos out. You'll be able to find these comments under them, because I have not removed them, so there shouldn't be any issue seeing them. I will not read the entire comment thread, because that would literally take an hour for some of these just in of itself, and they happen over a period of days. I'm going to read enough to you so you get the idea. I'll post like the picture up here. If you want to pause the video and read more, that is up to you, but I'm not going to read an entire like book's worth of this discussion to you. Fair warning, I do get a little passionate in my responses at times, which I'm not going to read all those to you. I kind of have a sardonic sense of humor to begin with, which if you watch enough of my videos, you'll notice. So I have fun, and I may have fun answering them, but I'm going to do my best to keep it respectful of your time. All right, I won't say who left.
Kind of missed it. All right, so we've got evolution definition. What is a theory? Does macroevolution work based on many microevolutions? So we'll see what she has to say about that.
All right, I won't say who left these comments, but if you want to know, you can find it yourself. This person took issue with my terminology and my understanding of science. So let's see if they had legs to stand on. All right, this is what they said. Here are some foundational errors you made in this video. You keep conflating evolution with abiogenesis. I hope I said that correctly. These are not the same fields at all. Evolution is descent with modification, which is simply the study of how current living things change over generations. Abiogenesis is the study of the origin of life. You spend a lot of the video fighting abiogenesis, hoping you can then claim that it disproves evolution. This is not equivalent. This is like arguing that we cannot study how cars work today because we do not know the exact way the first car was made. If you disprove one, you do nothing to disprove the other. You also seem to not understand what theory means in science. Evolution is an observed fact that has been documented in real time via antibiotic resistance, I don't know what this word is, phylogeny, I think I said it right, and speciation events like Drosophila and cingulate radiations. A theory is the exploratory framework for natural selection, genetic drift, etc. When you said if one step fails, the whole thing collapses, you're treating science like theology. In reality, evolution stands on its own. It does not matter how the first replicator born from molecular evidence. We can trace common ancestry through conserved protein domains and through retroviral insertions at identical loci across species. These are not assumptions, they are testable predictions that confirm divergence patterns. You also claim something that sounds very silly, that one animal cannot turn into another. You call this a kind. This is just not how evolution works. You have one species that could branch into multiple new species, but you would never have one animal turn into an existing species. Over a very long time, we have whales that started as a land wolf-like creature. This is a very significant change. I don't know what your definition of a new kind. Macroevolution is simply microevolution repeated many times over a long period. You take a small change and have many more of those small changes over a long period. You no longer have a small delta. You have a very large delta. Say that life is a shortcut to entropy, so the second law of thermodynamics is not broken by life and evolution. We build any cell, we burn energy and create more heat. That last part is ridiculous, just off the bat, because he's basically saying that we build a cell, which we're building, therefore we're designing, and if it actually functions, it prevents entropy, which is simply the decay and falling apart of something. That literally supports my point more than the point of evolution, because that would be something we're doing deliberately. And a living organism, we cannot make life in science still, we can only clone it, which means it's taken from something that's already alive.
All right, let's take a look back at that statement, because I think she's misunderstanding. Okay, so it says, let's see. Life is actually a shortcut to entropy. Local order is created, but at the cost of a greater amount of disorder for the system. When we build any cell, we burn energy and create more heat. The heat increases the entropy of the system more than any local order we ever build. And this is correct. This has been a point I've made many times. What life is doing, the reason life exists is because we have all this energy coming from the sun, and the Earth system has the ingredients for life, the conditions for life to form, and life is very efficient at taking that energy and using it up. So, life by existing is creating entropy, and it's not creating entropy in the life itself. That's not what that's not what he's saying, although that's what she's hearing, it seems like. But what it's doing is, in the whole overall Earth system, life is creating a lot of entropy by the very act of maintaining its own internal order is creating more disorder outside of itself than would otherwise be created. And that's what he's saying, and I think that's what she misunderstood.
That life is a shortcut to entropy, so the second law of thermodynamics is not broken by life and evolution. We build any cell, we burn energy and create more heat. That last part is ridiculous, just off the bat, because he's basically saying that we build a cell, which we're building, therefore we're designing, and if it actually functions, it prevents entropy, which is simply the decay and falling apart of something. That literally supports my point more than the point of evolution, because that would be something we're doing deliberately. And a living organism, we cannot make life in science still, we can only clone it, which means it's taken from something that's already alive. We're just modifying it and replicating it. That's not the same as creating it. So I'm not going to spend any more time on that part. But the rest of what he said, I thought bared some response on my part. So step by step, let's break down what he's saying. The first thing he says is that I'm conflating evolution with abiogenesis. So after looking it up, technically, terminology-wise, he's correct in that in strict scientific terms, abiogenesis, which is the appearance of life from non-living matter, is not considered part of the evolution theory, which supposedly focuses on the diversification and adaptation and change existing organisms through mechanisms like natural selection. Basically, evolution theory on its own is about natural selection and diversification of life in species that we already see existing. Now, I believe in this kind of evolution, which I explained to this person in the comments, but I won't bore you guys by reading that entire exchange. However, though it's not technically part of that evolution theory, abiogenesis is in textbooks when evolution is explained and taught, and it does involve a form of evolution. It's simply, warning, I do get a little
Oh man, I messed up.
part of the evolution theory, but it's considered necessary to explain.
I don't know about that. I don't know if abiogenesis is included in textbooks with evolution or not. I would say abiogenesis is very closely related to evolution. Uh, oh, hey, Robin, but not. It's abiogenesis is closely related to evolution, but she goes with the Kent Hovind-esque, cosmic evolution and chemical evolution and stellar evolution, um, and she calls all of that evolution. And the only people I've heard, and she makes the argument that that is what the layman thinks of when they talk about evolution. The only people I've heard talk about evolution and mean that are people who are creationists. Um, I've not heard anyone else say all those things are evolution. Um, and when um, when she says the person on the street, I mean, I kind of feel like maybe she's mostly talked to creationists. She's not actually talked to someone who believes evolution, because like some of the things she said in the last video uh was made me think that she doesn't she doesn't really pay attention to um anything secular. She only looks at um websites and publications by creationists. So like you're not going to get you're only going to get straw men if that's where you're going. And if you're only talking to people through comments like she seems to be doing, you're also not going to you're going to it's hard to convey the nuance needed and clear up misunderstandings. And I can tell you from the last video that I watched of hers, she does have a lot of misunderstandings of a number of scientific concepts. And like I said, started with this video. I was working on a script for that video, and she dropped this today, so I just thought I'd do a quick live reaction.
Or there simply is no explanation given by some scientists. Um, there's cosmic evolution, which is the Big Bang Theory, basically. That's the cosmos evolving, the universe evolving. Chemical evolution, which you would need to make stars and pretty much everything else. Planetary evolution, that's the evolution of big, like, heavenly bodies, like in objects that are solid that we could actually stand on. There's, macroevolution. There's cellular evolution. Sorry, before that, that's the basically where the evolution of life, the abiogenesis, comes in. There's macroevolution, which is the idea that one species could turn into another species, a completely different kind of creature. That's the whole like land animals turn into whales thing, or vice versa. And then there's microevolution, which is the only kind that you can test and prove and show evidence for in the real world. And that's why we have so many breeds of dogs, cats, so many kinds of humans, so many kinds of.
So that's just not true. It, I would say, in a sense, microevolution, depending on how you define it. But if you mean microevolution, what I think most creationists look for when they say macroevolution is they're looking for a change in body plan. Um, they're wanting a creature, an organism, to look unrecognizable from the original form, and that is not something you're going to get in a lab. It takes too long. You're not going to say it. But if you're going to say we can't observe it, that's not true. Um, we have fossils that we can observe. We have DNA that we can like compare, and all of those point to, hey, these things are related. We even have comparative biology, or not anatomy, comparative anatomy. All of these point to these things share a common ancestor, and the body plans have changed. I mean, it is what she thinks of as macroevolution. Hey, BBM. Oh, hey, if anyone wants to come on, I can post a link. Let me go ahead and do that. If anyone wants to come on and help me not stick my foot in my mouth.
Plants. And yes, I believe that they had a common ancestor. But that has nothing to do with the other 5 levels of evolution. And again, technically they're not considered part of the theory. And the atheists use this generally to dodge that, oh, the evolution theory is clearly unscientific because we have no evidence of it. They say, well, the theory itself, we have plenty of evidence of. Maybe that's true. But then my question is, if the evolution theory is just about natural selection, which, by the way, not in every case does natural selection actually work. It does work sometimes, but there are also extenuating circumstances that can cause population loss that have nothing to do with natural selection. So, at least not directly. So it's not the only explanation for the change of life, but it does happen. I'm not arguing that, but it's just not a complete theory. So even if that was all it was evolution theory, it's not a complete theory in of itself. But that's not really what I want to go to war over. The point is, the rest of the theory that is known as the evolution theory to the layman is still taught alongside the technical evolution theory. That was my objection both in my videos.
And that's just not true. Like all these things that she listed, cosmic evolution, stellar evolution, chemical evolution, and like those I mean, under those names they're not even talked about because that's not what they're called by Kent Hovind. That's not what they're called by anyone else. But those what he's talking about with those are not taught at the same time as evolution because evolution is specifically about biology, cosmology, stellar synthesis. Um, I don't know what else would there be. Yeah. Anyway, none of the astrophysics. That's the word I was looking for. None of those are taught with biology because they are unrelated to biology, except that under the overall branch of natural sciences.
And in this comment thread, that if they are not the same thing, and I'm willing to say that they're not. I mean, you probably know better than me, right? Since I'm not a secular scientist. But then why are they taught like they're the same? And when I took science class, they were taught like they were the same thing. If they even admit that it's a theory, which they don't usually in the textbooks, but if they admit that it's not proven, they still say it's the best explanation, and they never allow for any explanation except one related to the steps of evolution. So that was my defense on that part. You can still nitpick me using the terms, and I told this person, you can do that, but I don't think it matters because, again, I'm using the terms that most people would understand. That's who my podcast is directed at. Most people don't have a degree in science. They don't know, like, the specific categories that everything's divided into. I don't think that makes you stupid. And I don't think it's wrong to use evolution as a blanket term for all other steps.
So it's, I mean, words mean things, but also like it is what you're trying to convey. But the problem you get is when you use a technical term and you use it wrong, it's hard to understand what you're actually saying. Like when you say evolution and someone who knows what evolution is, they're going to think a specific thing. And if you start talking about stellar synthesis, like they're not going to know what you're talking about. I had this problem with your other video because you were talking about evolution and you started talking about how evolution doesn't explain Pangea. Um, and like, well, no, it doesn't because it has nothing to do with Pangea. It's not geology. Um, anyway, so there is a place to be precise with your terms.
Because they are all technically related. And it's easier that way. However, if you truly object to that, please suggest an alternative name to it that would be easily recognizable to everybody. I don't think there is one except the scientific explanation, and that's a misleading term because all the other steps of evolution are not scientifically verified, and there's massive evidence that they're scientifically impossible. Which if you do what I did and just look up abiogenesis on Google, you will literally find that listed that it is scientifically implausible. There's a website here, Louis Pasteur's. Sorry, not Louis
Pasteur, I think that's probably spontaneous generation, which is not the same thing as abiogenesis. Okay, yeah. I mean, I can see why you conflate them because spontaneous generation is the idea that life arises from non-living matter, and abiogenesis is life from non-life, but it's not. It's not the same thing. Like abiogenesis is describing a process where self-replicating molecules, formed and went through several steps and eventually became cells, and they were fit all the criteria we have for life. I heard something. Oh, Robin. Let's see. Is there a way? Sorry, guys. I think Robin's trying to come on. Oh, wait. There we go. Hey, Robin, you there?
Yes, I'm here. You
All
good?
right. Yeah, I think this is the first time I've used Restream, so I had to figure
Okay.
that out.
Oh my,
um,
this girl is like way steeped in
yeah, yeah,
misinformation.
she's got some issues with kind of some misunderstandings about what science is and different things in science. Um, oh, hey, Mod. Um, and yeah, I like I said, I had just finished a script. I was actually thinking about starting the recording of that video tonight, and then this dropped today, and so I was like, well, let's go ahead and just do this. Um, but yeah. Anyway, I guess we'll go ahead and finish. If you want to jump in, if she says something you want to talk about, Robin, just say pause, and I'll pause it.
Okay, it just like I was just listening and chat. I'm just like, oh my gosh, she's got so many things screwed up. Like it, like abiogenesis is scientifically, what did she say? Impossible.
Yeah, and she's mistaking abiogenesis for spontaneous generation, which like people used to think
Oh
spontaneous generation. That was like the people
yeah,
would see maggots appear on dead meat, and they'd say, "Oh, the maggots were spawned by the dead meat."
yes,
That's and yeah, that's not what abiogenesis is. Like
no, not at
abiogenesis
all.
is microorganisms developing, not fully functional complex organisms. So
Did an experiment in the 19th century showing that it's implausible. And the website saying that it's not admit that there's no actual test proving this and that it does violate the laws of physics, but they say literally this one says.
and it doesn't violate the laws of physics. It is just organic chemistry uh, applied to certain conditions.
Yeah, like I don't know. I like she spit out more misinformation in like 2 minutes than I've heard in a while.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I would. I don't know. Chris was saying, asking if she'd be a good candidate to be on someone's show. I mean, I don't know. It's I've only watched this video and one other video from her. Or actually, I've only watched one other video. And what we've seen in this video from her, and I don't know. Maybe she'd be a good candidate, or maybe she's I don't know, needs some something.
Yeah, Mike and Austin are pretty good. Like and Scott, all of them are pretty good with it.
Yeah. Well, no, and so like to me, I don't know. To me, I like talking about the way people think and not specific facts that they're wrong about. Because to me, like it kind of comes down to like teach a man to fish, or give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish, and you've fed him for a lifetime. And I think it's more important to know how to think rather than have any specific correct facts.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree to find out if you're right. But like, I never have. I have so much trouble with people. Somebody get on and make videos about a subject that they like, unless I knew something about it. Like I don't know. It just seems very odd to me. That,
Well, and I mean, then you get into Dunning Kruger because, like, you might. She thinks she knows. She thinks she thinks she's talking like legitimate science stuff and taking it apart, and she's just mistaken about what she's talking about.
yeah,
And you never know what you don't know. That's the problem.
yeah,
Somehow, without violating the laws of physics and chemistry, a molecule rose that just happened to have the property of self-copying a replicator. They insist that this does happen. We've never seen it happen. They say the only reason is that the Earth was different millions of years ago.
Well, it was because before there was life on Earth, there was no life on Earth. Like, so I like to say that abiogenesis could be happening all the time, every day, right now. We don't know that it isn't, because it'd be such a rare event that the chances of us actually seeing it are just so improbable. And anything that were to form life today is going to be immediately consumed by organisms that have had 4.3 billion years of evolution. No, not 4.3, 3.3 billion years of evolution, refining their ability to consume the very resources that the organism that just went into abiogenesis is composed of. So like, it's not a thing we would ever, it's so unlikely that we would see it that, I don't know. It could be happening. We would never see it today.
Yes.
Convenient.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Sorry, what were you saying?
I said, yes, I agree with that. Yes.
Do you know it was different? No, nothing in observable scientific history has ever shown that it was different enough to produce such a what I would call a miraculous event. And we're gonna go that far. Might as well just say,
well, but that's just it. The difference was there was no life, so even this really crappy self-replicating molecule that was not very good at self-replicating would have the ability to not immediately be consumed because there was nothing there to consume it. That's the difference. That is the difference more than anything else.
it is intelligent design because whatever made it different, why is it not different anymore? Something like they're like, oh, the raw materials have been used up. Again, a convenient answer because that means that you don't know what the raw materials were. You're just saying they're gone. They were there, but they're gone. How is this any more ridiculous to the secular mind than saying that God did it beats me? Because at least God would be a force that had intelligence enough to think of this. While you're saying it just poof, it appeared, and then poof, it disappeared over millions of years. Like the millions of years part makes it more plausible. Not to be rude, I don't see how this fixes the problem. That's my point. So yeah, maybe I did direct. They were right. More of my criticism against abiogenesis technically is still part of most people's understanding of evolution, and I think that's all I need to say about that. To their allegation that I don't know what theory means in science, all the examples they gave of evolution being an observed fact were microevolution, which I don't argue is a fact. Now, their claim that the word theory in science is simply a process, that could be technically what it's defined as. Why don't we look? Well, as it turns out, I probably was correct according to the internet. Even though in science, a theory, and mind you, the term theory outside of science is generally used to mean a guess. So only in science would it have this other meaning as well, just for the record. So though it is a well-substantiated, comprehensive explanation of a natural phenomenon, backed by a vast body of evidence, repeated observations, and test hypothesis, it is not considered a fact. The reason is it's predictive. They allow scientists to make accurate predictions about unobserved phenomenon, but they are still predictions. They're often wrong. And
that is not the way that works. So if a theory results in wrong predictions, we change the theory. It's no longer the theory.
Yeah, it doesn't make it to theory if it makes wrong predictions usually.
Oh no, that's not true.
Is she responding to you though?
No, she's not. She's responding to a comment.
Well, I mean, most of the time, by the time that something reaches the status of theory, it has a lot of supportive evidence. That is the gold standard in science.
I don't know. I see theories as a little bit differently. I see theories as the most parsimonious explanation for the facts that we have right now.
Yeah.
That's what a theory is.
Yeah.
And so that doesn't mean
there is no higher status for something than theory.
Sure. It's not quite, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's more of a pop understanding of the way science works. Theories are just explanations, because there are theories that don't have any they don't have a lot of data that
I know, but like a theory in science, a scientific theory.
No, I know. I'm talking about scientific theories, string
scientific theory is as high as you can go. It's that's the highest status you can achieve in science. There is nothing higher than a theory.
Well, what I'm saying is a theory all of a theory is an explanation of the data that we have.
Yeah,
So
but
like
it's based on, but it's to be called a theory, it has to be it has to have like several things, or like just because you have an explanation doesn't mean it's achieved theory status. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure if I've if your understanding of theories or my understanding is incorrect.
It's falsifiable and testable, which means that it can be revised, refined, or thrown out entirely, which has happened many times in science. It is not a fact. It is also not a law. A law is an observed phenomenon, often like a mathematical formula, like the law of gravity, that every time we apply it, it's the same. Like if I drop something, it will fall. There will never be any exception to that unless it's something that can defy gravity. We can find scientific reasons for that. That's the law. But the theory is the explanation for why a phenomenon happens. But again, they are constantly modified. Now, I pointed out in my responses to this that the way I was using the term was more along this line. It turns out that was correct. It is something that is not considered a fact. It is a theory. And my objection to it is that it is taught like it is a fact. It is not taught like it is a theory. So they may provide different explanations for how that theory could work, but they're still just guesses. There are no hard facts or laws.
Well, there are facts. There's facts of evolution, and the theory is what explains the facts. And so the facts are there.
I wouldn't even call them facts. I think they're observations, because I don't even think that the word that's like science uses the word fact at all.
I don't know. I'm not
Because
sure.
we don't ever, because like all of these, science always has an answer that is tentative based
Sure.
on more information. So a fact would insinuate that you had certainty and that it was done. And so I don't think that you'll find the word fact in in science much at all.
I think they tend more towards calling it data.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think the word fact is in science much at all. Like not unless it's just used in some kind of loose way, loose language. This is why language is so important. Like
Yeah,
when,
but on the other hand, like we know that what she means by fact is data, and so we
I
can give her
know
the benefit of the doubt and say,
she's teaching this to other people, and it's like missing, like she's it's misinformation that like because it is confusing because somebody used language like that, or I don't know. It just you have to be real careful with your language with science, I think. But there, I don't mean to stop yet.
"No, you're good."
And often the evolution theory violates known laws to begin with, like the second law of thermodynamics that I mentioned that they brushed aside with an explanation that doesn't really explain. So, look, my point is not that this person was necessarily trying to like do this or to misrepresent science. I believe that they thought they were correct, but they made a lot out of my slightly more loose use of these terms. But my use of them was not completely technically incorrect. Now, for their last objection, that I claim that one animal cannot turn into another, and that calls that's silly, and that's not how evolution works. Because one species can branch into multiple new species. Later on, they or somebody else gave the example of whales. I think it was the same person, and how like there's this common ancestor that scientists say like is not enough like the land animal similar to it to be one of them. So it's similar to a whale, and that it has like this one or two characteristics that are similar to a whale. So it must be the common ancestor, and that cows and whales evolved from it. Blah blah blah. I've heard this before. So basically, the argument is that macroevolution, like they said, is microevolution over a period of millions of years. My counter to this was on a point that there's a certain amount of genetic difference that after a while becomes fatal. I believe it's between 1% to 2% usually. Could be a little bit higher than that.
Well, no, that's just not.
Yeah,
Maybe like if you had too many mutations in a single generation, that could be fatal. I would agree with that.
I
But
don't know
over,
where that talking point comes from at all.
I don't either. Uh, uh, what I would say is like if you have too many mutations in a single generation, that offspring is going to be genetically incompatible with any other member of the population. It won't be able to reproduce. It'll be sterile. And so in that sense, sure, that would lead to the end of that lineage for that one organism. Um, but what she's saying is like what she's missing is if you have if you're too far genetically from another organism, you can't reproduce with them. And she's it's like she thinks this is happening in one generation, and that organism can't find a mate now. But that's not how that works. Instead, you got a small mutation, and if it's beneficial, if it confers a benefit, it will spread throughout the population
Yeah, but
until
it has to make it into first. It has to make it into the germ line before it even gets passed on to your offspring. Like,
well, yeah, yeah.
and so like just because the mutation occurs while you're alive, or it has to be in your germ line. Like it has, it
Yeah, I mean, I was assuming a mutation that is heritable.
yeah. I'm not
Um,
even sure that she probably understands that part.
uh, I mean, yeah, there's a good maybe she doesn't, but even so, if you have a mutation that's heritable, like it's not like that organism is now and unable to reproduce with any other member of the population that it's a part of. It can still reproduce, but that mutation, if it's beneficial, will spread over successive generations, and it really doesn't take long, especially with a smaller population, for that to spread to become a fixed mutation.
Yes.
Um, and so it's like she doesn't. It seems to me like maybe she's never actually studied evolution from someone who actually knows what they're talking about and wants her to at least understand what it actually says. It's like she's only heard it from people who either don't know what they're talking about or want her to not believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. She's definitely has not taken a evolutionary biology class.
Well, I haven't either. So
But I know, but like, um, but you kind of have you kind of have had the benefit of being around a lot of people that do know a lot about it, and you are interested enough in it to try to learn it instead of like,
yeah,
what I mean.
we got Chris Moore on here too. So let me add
Oh, well,
him.
Chris, come in here.
Hey, Chris,
Yo,
how's it
yes,
going?
I'm doing good. Just kind of cruising the internet as always.
Sure.
Anyway, so so where are you guys at? I kind of dipped out a little while, but
Oh, she's talking about she just made the point that if we have 1% mutations from your, I don't know, your perfect genome, it kills you. And therefore,
is it
since modern species are less than or more than 1% different, they couldn't have evolved from a common ancestor, which is
okay? But is it going from the back of us being like what 10 to 14% chimpanzee thing argument? I don't know.
she hasn't she
Like,
hasn't she hasn't mentioned any specific species. She just said if you have 2%, 1 or 2% mutations, it's fatal to have that much mutations.
Well, she was arguing against like whales and hoofed animals being, like being um, related, genetically related.
Right.
And she
okay,
was saying that they were so far apart. Like from what I understood, they were so far apart that like they couldn't be because they would be fatal. I don't know. I really don't know. I've like she she seems to have a very loose grasp
because
on this
because for
of
me
this.
it's the for me for in my personal experience with the creationist types, it's like having what was it having a breast cow from a non-cow
Yeah, I mean,
stuff and that type of, and it's that, yes, in the scheme of things we are like one there's one less than 1% of their DNA. However, it's not the fact that you have one less than 1% DNA that factors in. It goes with the transmissible genetic mutations that are harmful. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm probably talking out of my ass.
Well, and also like it seems like she doesn't understand that in a population, the harmful mutations will get weeded out. Like they don't stick around.
Yeah,
They they get weeded out. The beneficial ones um take over the population, assuming that, uh the population doesn't the environment doesn't change or the population doesn't go extinct or whatever, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, but it's just it's just that there's like the micro nuances of biology, like biology class. I just say this like in general. There's more to it than this like blank statement crap that she's kind of putting off. That it's like what I'm saying is that it shows that she hasn't done basically like, I'm sorry to say this, but it's like basic like ninth grade biology class. At least when it comes to us in Canada, it's basically we have to have biology all the way up until like grade 9,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it just kind of tells what. Not saying that it tells why, but it's just like there's more nuance to the whole shebang about DNA and stuff like that. So,
Hey, Phantom, I've got
all
to
right,
go.
I've been
Okay, thanks for coming, Robin.
Thank you. Bye, Chris.
okay. Bye.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
I've been
It's unfortunate too because in her other video, the one that I was going to respond to, like she has some
yeah.
pretty interesting ideas, um, about like different dimensions. I mean, I don't think she's. I think it's. Uh, I think
Gobbledygook.
it's. Well, I think it's pop culture, sci-fi, or science,
Yeah.
and not what actual scientists are talking about when they say different dimensions. But what I liked about it was it showed that she's thinking about these things and she's reading these books and she sees, oh, scientists think there's other dimensions, and she's trying to incorporate that knowledge into her explanations for her theology. And I really liked that
Okay.
um about her, because it at least shows that she's willing to try to think about these things. And to me, that's the important thing. But now on in this video so far, it's just like she's just saying the same things that Kent Hovind says, and it's kind of not as uh it's a little more depressing. Oh,
Yeah.
hey, Pixie.
Mm.
Anyway, let's go ahead and continue.
And to get from any of these species that they say are related to the other species would be a much bigger difference than that. And even like humans and orangutans, who they say are the closest, have a bigger difference than is.
And they don't. They say humans and chimps are the closest. I don't know. I don't know where she got orangutans. Like, I mean, they're
It, the well, at least in terms of why, like, there's more. It's more of a hierarchical of who gets more like in terms of intelligence, kind of like
mm-hmm.
behavioral intelligence and emotional intelligence. Orangutans are one of the highest, like behaviorally type of thing, are
Oh,
more
okay.
closest to us, meaning that they have what I mean is that they have a long it's like they have a long not gestation but like childcare
Maturation.
maturation, excuse me. Sorry, I'm not really good with the words.
Sure.
Yeah, maturation. They have a long maturation period as us. They have essentially primitive tool use. like to shape their nests and stuff
Mhm.
like that. They also have the cognitive um the cognitive ability to learn behavior, or just for x behavior, for that's not necessarily like going to be like instant gratification, that those type of things.
Delayed. You're talking. They have
Yeah,
a
yeah,
greater ability for delayed gratification. Okay.
yeah. The delayed gratification and complex abstract thinking,
Hmm.
like in a way. So like, and compared to like chimpanzees and like the rest of our hominid relatives, those are up on the like more up on the ladder, close to us. So that's what the anyhow in the science thing, that's like in terms of like our, like that's what's relative to us.
Okay.
It's orangutans are up on that, well, not on the food chain, but on the spectrum, higher on the spectrum of what we perceive as,
Cognitive abilities.
yeah, cognitive
Yeah.
abilities and
Oh,
intelligence. So
I had never really looked at how the different great apes rate
yeah,
in cognitive abilities. I just knew that genetically we're the closest to the chimps, and
yes,
I'd never heard anyone say we're closer to orangutans until she just said this, and that's just a
no,
weird thing
no,
to me.
no, it's not. It's like, at least for the orangutan thing, genetically, no, we are more like, we are more far apart. The orangutans are essentially more closer to gorillas
Yeah, I
in a
mean,
sense, although don't
I
quote
would
me on
expect
that.
them to be
Yeah,
I would
but
expect them to be far away because they're like geographically they're not
yeah,
near where we came from. Anyway,
yeah, but it's just like I said, it's just the science, like in terms of science, orangutans are more developed, like like I said
sure,
previously, that's how we measure those, like, so those parameters
sure.
of, you know anyway, I've been yapping on too long. Let's continue.
Possible. Now, the way to get around this is saying that, well, the differences happened in small steps, so it wasn't fatal. Okay, there's a couple problems with that explanation. First one that I pointed out in the comment thread itself is that there's no evidence. They'll say that, like, they found many fossils that are intermediate fossils, but none of them are truly intermediate fossils. They're different species than we have now. Some of them, they think have been extinct for a long time, but given that things like dodos only went extinct in the last couple thousand years, it seems, I think actually less time than that, odd to assume that all these animals are really, really old. How do you know that? How do you know they're old? They'll say carbon dating. Carbon dating doesn't actually work, though. It's been proven not to work many times. Look that up yourself. I'm not going to get into it here. But so there is no way actually to know how old it is beyond a certain level of like wear and stuff. So, and even if they were millions of years old and we could verify that they were older than more recent extinct animals, it wouldn't prove that they were intermediate species. A truly intermediate species would have to at some point exist where it would have
Okay,
abilities from both
all
what it
right,
used to be, what it was turning into.
all right. Sorry, sorry if I'm kind of putting this out there. She's essentially conflating the idea of, the evolutionary, on the evolutionary timeline of the species. Like, where does humans begin, and when the quote unquote chimps and apes fit in, and that's basically that's what she's kind of like muddy the waters on it. I don't know if Phantom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
uh, I'm not sure. It's I was I don't know.
Like I said, I think that she's kind of conflating the time span between like us Homo erectus and all those things. And she's kind of conflating that, muddying the waters on that. So anyway,
Yeah,
okay.
that would make it impossible for it to survive. Think about it. If it happens in slow steps, let's take the dinosaur and bird example. They say dinosaurs turned into birds. Even though we still have lizards today that are built pretty similarly to dinosaurs, they're just smaller, and they're not birds. They always have some bullcrap explanation for that, like, well, they stopped mutating, but they didn't die out. It's just that all the intermediate species between died out. Yeah, that's what happened, and that we're just left with what remained, like these diversified species. That's what they believe. They literally like said that to me in these comments. I'm like, okay, I think the brilliant conclusion that you've come to has a problem in that. Why would they be the only ones that survived? I mean, if these creatures were really that adaptable, that they could turn from one creature to the other creature through a series of small changes, why would none of those intermediate species have survived in mass? I mean, technically,
Well, that's so. She just doesn't understand what evolution is saying. Like, first of all, so species diverge, and that's where you get two different species, and then also genetic drift will change a species without divergence. And so if you got the genetic drift, what you're going to end up with is a bunch of transitional fossils that are like in that same lineage, and there's no separate lineage for them to diverge from. It's all just like there. But then when you diverge, you're going to get two separate species going in different directions. And I don't know where I'm going with this. But it's weird to expect no species. To me, it's weird to me to expect that no populations will go extinct, because that's what she's arguing, is that why aren't they still here? Well, it's because they went extinct. And like a species, I mean, we know species go extinct, so I don't know what her problem is.
But then again, it's like when we kind of assert the proposition of all of us hominids, as in where the hell is everybody, as in, you know, where are the Neanderthals and all that stuff. Well, not most, like not all of us, as like the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but some of our DNA inherited, you know, Neanderthal DNA.
Sure.
Like by a very, 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 very like small percentage.
Yeah.
So
yeah, there are some people, humans, Homo sapiens alive today with Neanderthal DNA, but the Neanderthals as a species did go extinct. Like, that's why they're not around.
Yes.
Like
they got I'm not debating.
Yeah, they got outcompeted by Homo sapiens, or they weren't able to adapt to the changing environment fast enough. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's settled exactly why they went extinct, but that's why they went extinct. That's why they're not around anymore. And it's weird to me to expect to see, you know, one example of every single species from the beginning of Luca to now.
They have more abilities than the ones we see now that make them more adaptable. So not really, because for a reptile to go to a bird, like, honestly, a true intermediate point would make it pretty much impossible for it to survive. They'll try to like dance around this, but the fact is, logically, there would have to be a point where this dinosaur is starting to like transition into feathers, you know, and a beak and hollow bones, which is what birds have.
Well, but the thing is, a lot of dinosaurs did have hollow bones. The theropod dinosaurs did. Like, that's why birds have hollow bones. And they had feathers. They didn't have beaks.
Yep.
But like what she's saying, these dinosaurs would have to have, like, that's what they had. We found imprints of these things. So I don't know. It's like she's not, like I said earlier, it's like she's only heard people who want her to not believe evolution giving a strawman version of evolution.
Well, and the thing is that with birds, it's a specific type of dinosaur.
Yeah, it was
raptors.
It was theropod dinosaurs and only some of them like not the big ones because they
Yeah.
died with the asteroid
Yeah.
impact, but the smaller ones.
And crocodiles are like from a different, genome. Well, not genome, but different species of dinosaurs.
Well,
you know?
crocodiles aren't even dinosaurs. They have dinosaurs have it's the way the shoulders and legs attach, and crocodiles have more of a lizard style arm limb attachment, whereas dinosaurs had the other kind, and I don't know what they're called. But
Yeah.
crocodiles weren't.
But you see the categorical error that she's making, essentially, with the raptors thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's yeah.
Versus, the other thing, like from dinosaurs that, it's anyway. Okay, I'm gonna shut up.
And but if it's a small change, a small mutation, that it's unlikely that all of its body would have this at once. And even if it did, it wouldn't be like the feathers we have now. So they probably wouldn't be able to fly. They also would have had to get smaller. Well, at some point in this, it's going to be hard to.
But that's exactly what happened. Like feathers were not used for flight first. That they were used. I believe they were used for maintaining temperature for the eggs, if I remember correctly, was what their initial use.
I don't know. Probably if we had Mike or Austin up here, we would probably be more having an educated guess. But
sure, but like T-Rex, they say T-Rex had feathers now, and like it wasn't flying. Its feathers were just basically downy type feathers, but they were still feathers. Dinosaurs had feathers. Eventually, dinosaurs had some of the dinosaurs had an advantage for having longer feathers that allowed them to fly. And not even all birds today fly. Like there are flightless birds, and they have feathers. Yeah, emus, ostriches, they have feathers, but they can't fly because their feathers aren't this kind. They're not set up in such a way that they would allow them to fly. So
Eat food then. It can't fly yet. So I mean, I guess it could run. But as getting smaller, I would think then obviously whatever predators it would have an easier time hunting it down. And the most implausible thing, of course.
Well, and that's just assuming. I mean, she's there here. She's thinking dinosaur means big.
Yep.
And that's not the case. Like there were small dinosaurs too.
Yep.
And once the asteroid hit, all the big dinosaurs died out. They couldn't find enough food. The small dinosaurs are the ones that survived in that environment. So they wouldn't have had they didn't have bigger predators predating them. Like the environment changed so that the being the small guy was the advantage, the one that lets you survive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that this variation would happen at the exact same time as another creature of the opposite sex, then they would be able to mate. It's a big world out there. The likelihood of two mutations like this happening at the same time.
And there we have it. If you have a mutation, you have to find a mate with the exact same mutation in order to reproduce. But that's just not how that works. She has mutations that no other human has. But more than likely, she can reproduce. I have mutations that no other human has, but I have reproduced. I have evidence that I can do that. The idea that I have to go find someone in the entire world that has the exact same mutations is just not understanding how this stuff works.
It's pretty unlikely unless they're both caused by the same event. And most mutations caused by an event, a catastrophic event, are harmful mutations. They're lacking information. They're not adaptive mutations. Even if they are, the likelihood of those two creatures like mating is also small if it doesn't happen to several of them at the same time. And again, for this kind of mutation, it'd be very hard for it to occur at the same time. It's very, very implausible. But even assuming it did, yes, at some point in this process, they basically would be unable to survive because they wouldn't be able to get food, they wouldn't be able to get away from predators. If their coloring is changing, also, for example, their camouflage is changing. So whatever method they use to survive, that's why we don't see this happen in the real. We don't see it turn into something that's completely different for the environment it lives in. It wouldn't really, it wouldn't survive. It would not work unless it could move environments. I don't think in the pre-human era that's a very plausible thing because humans are responsible for moving creatures to an environment they're not adapted to. So without human interference, it's not going to happen.
There we go.
And of course, on top of this, there is, even if it was possible, there's still no fossil evidence of the dinosaurs to birds thing. And people always say Archaeopteryx. It's kind of that's also the only example we have is Archaeopteryx. There's no other one. Archaeopteryx.
I don't know about that. I honestly, I don't keep track of specific specimens, but I would be surprised if Archaeopteryx is the only dinosaur to bird transition we have. And I think a lot of the transition, like when Darwin was around, we didn't know that dinosaurs had feathers. Like what a transitional fossil would have has changed, or what a transitional species would have has changed since Archaeopteryx was found. So
yeah, and it's also like an evolving field, like always. So it's like, again, you are basically being intellectually dishonest when you just kind of assume that he, like, he's here's here's what we got so far, but we just kind of admit that it's not complete. But then you got those creationists that are basically just like, oh, we don't have you don't have an answer. And then you got the God of the gaps fallacy, or whatever you want to call it, like the idea.
Argument from incredulity, God of the gaps. It's all this kind of the same kind of thing. We don't have an answer, therefore we do have an answer, which is a contradiction because that's just, if we don't have an answer, we just don't have an answer.
Yeah. Anyway,
has characteristics of a bird. It has a bony tail. It has, which is perhaps more like a lizard. It also has teeth on its beak. Well, some birds today have teeth in their beaks that look nothing like Archaeopteryx, and they're nothing like dinosaurs either. It had claws on its wings. Some birds today have.
I don't think any birds have teeth on their beaks. Some birds have like sharp structures on their beaks, but they're not teeth.
Yeah,
they look like teeth, but they're not made of the same stuff as teeth, and they are not. They don't develop the same way as teeth, so they are not teeth.
And then there's also the fact that like some geese, their tongues are very vicious. Like it's like how can I explain this? It's more like sandpaper, like very fucking hard sandpaper that of a tongue, which like you even like if they just like when they snap at you, if you're not careful, you can easily bleed from that.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
So anyway, just an anecdote.
Claws on their wings. Some mammals also have claws on their wings. It doesn't have claws on its wings, other than pterodactyl. Pretty much any other dinosaur. And the funny thing is, they don't even say that the pterodactyls are the ones that turned into birds. They say it was, the raptor ones, or the ones similar to that were on the ground. So literally the only flying lizards we know that had wings were in the pterodactyl family. I know there's another name for it, but anyways, we have basically nothing. We have no intermediate species. Archaeopteryx doesn't count it. Even secular scientists have admitted it's a bird. It's not a dinosaur-bird hybrid. It's far more like a bird anyway than like a dinosaur, so it still wouldn't really be an intermediate species, even if it was part of the chain of it. It wouldn't be what I would consider a true intermediate one, which would have to be a halfway point one. It's nothing close to a halfway point one. It would be a bird with slight lizard-like reptile-like characteristics, if you could even say those are reptile characteristics, because again, mammals, such as bats, have those characteristics as well. No one's trying to say that bats came from pterodactyls, even though they both kind of had the same leathery wings.
Well, now she's mistaking convergent evolution for ancestry. Like, uh,
Yeah, but also she's poisoning the well too at the same
oh
time
yeah,
by by just essentially like how she rearranged the order of like big dinosaurs, and then now she's just like conveniently put the raptors on the side. Previously when she said dinosaurs are not birds, you know,
hmm
on the like earlier on the video, and it's like you're not making coherent sense either way, and that's why you're just like, you're saying this don't make sense, so like, I don't know. And well, anyhow, that line of thinking that just poisons everything, you know. So
yeah.
Because it's a lot harder to go from a reptile to a mammal. But again, there's huge differences between reptiles and birds, so it's pretty much just as implausible. And consider that creatures like the
okay,
duck-billed platypus exist.
mammals and like it's a totally different okay, like I said, she's playing with ancestry versus genetics over
Uh huh.
here, and ugh, because now we're at mammals, but it's a totally different thing than raptors and then dinosaurs previously.
Well, I think what her broader point is that she's saying you can't transition from this kingdom to this no, it's not kingdom. Oh, whatever level that like reptiles,
Order?
yeah, order. You
Okay.
can't she's saying transitioning from one order to another is so hard that it's just basically impossible. Um I think that's what her broader point is. She's trying to. That's why she brings up, reptiles to mammals and dinosaurs to birds. And like with the thing,
And don't forget, and don't forget that to some creationists, it's all happened within life happened within the lifespan of what, 10,000 years or
I mean,
so.
I think most young Earth creationists say 6,000, but there's some that go as high as 10,000. But
Well, anyhow, I'd say 10,000 to
but but
6,000, give
but
or
it's
take.
even worse than that because like if you're a young Earth creationist, you are more than likely a fundamentalist Christian. Like that's the vast majority of young Earth creationists, which means that
Okay.
they also believe in Noah's flood, which is
Yeah.
a bottleneck event for a lot of species, or every species really.
Hmm.
And um, you have to get from there to the diversity that we see today. Not in 4,500 years, which is how long ago they say the flood happened. You have to get that diversity in a few hundred years because that's when we start having records of so many modern species. Like like you're talking the super hyper fast evolution and species diversification that would be insane. Like for some species, every single generation would be have to be a new species.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, the point I'm getting at is that the fact that like the confirmation bias of creationists that's 10 to 6,000 years old is basically just like it's so you cannot fathom. Well, it's just it's just like what I mean is that essentially as humans we can barely understand the concept of a of a 100 years, let alone 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And so when you're so married to the concept that that like life happened within a certain like a certain time frame, like a short time frame, it's very difficult to comprehend the scale of millions and billions of years, even eons
Yeah.
of time. So anyway, but that's my 2 cents of it, of the logic that is why they're so, like, they handicap themselves from the for that comprehension, for that to take place. You know, for comprehension to take place.
Sure.
So anyway,
Which people might say that's a missing link too, but that also has been debunked because even though it's certainly a very weird creature, there's again no transition to any other kind of creature similar to it. The platypus is kind of just its own weird thing. So call it a missing link if you want, but again, there's no intermediate species between the platypus and something else. It's a marsupial, but that's about the only thing it has in common with any other mammal. Is that, and that it's furry. Beyond that, it's like we don't know. We don't know why it works the way it does. It just does. It should be impossible. It's not. I have no problem with this because I'm a creationalist and I believe that God made the platypus just to screw with people who went to Australia, tried to like figure out what this animal was. Maybe not. That wasn't. That's a joke. Okay, it's a joke. People always take my jokes seriously when they like leave comments. I can laugh at myself, guys. It's okay. All right, I think I've exhausted like that. That was technically 3 points in one. So thank you, person who left that comment. You gave me a lot to work with. Oh, and if you have any more questions about that one, please leave them below. I'd be happy to elaborate on it. I also recommend checking out drdino.com or Answers in Genesis if you don't mind a creationist answer to these things. Again, they have been debunked by non-creation scientists, secular science, people who believe in evolution, but they still think that they're crap examples. So it is not just the opinion of creationists. I'm sure people are going to disagree with me on that, but oh well, I'm going to move on to my next point.
And that,
if
go ahead.
Sorry, if she was honest, she would have basically just looked up what the quote unquote evolutionist side takes in.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. Like she's going and looking for the websites that she already agrees with and saying, what do they say in response to what the theory of evolution says? And you're not going to, you're going to get confirmation bias and straw men from that. If you want to know what evolutionists say, you need to go to the evolutionists. And I say evolutionists, it's not evolutionist, but I don't care. If you,
yeah,
I don't care. It's a word, and I think it conveys the meaning that I'm expecting, and I don't care that there's not technically an evolutionist.
I understand. So, okay.
Oh, I didn't read the word.
Another comment, I believe under the same video, is that what it sounds like you're saying on that, but oh well, I'm going to move on to my next point.
All right, so we've got, why does evolution being incomplete make it invalid? Now that is, so in her earlier video, she did say that because there's missing steps in evolution, it's an invalid theory, which is not how scientific theories work. Scientific theories are like predicated on the idea that they are incomplete. Like we know that, or we go under the assumption that every single theory we have is not correct. And we just don't know where or how it's incorrect. And so we keep working with what we got until we find out, oh, hey, this doesn't match the theory. We need to update our theory.
Yeah.
All right. Another comment, I believe under the same video, is that what it sounds like you're saying is that until all the links in the chain are identified and well documented, there's a reason why believers should buy into it, talking about the evolution link of succession that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, that is exactly what I'm saying. So their response to this was interesting. I'm not necessarily saying it's a terrible response, it's an interesting way to look at it. They're saying life is full of uncertainty. The person can know the sun comes up because it does what it does. Closer to the truth is that the earth is rotating around. You can know that the sun comes up every day and seasons change without understanding orbital mechanics. I agree. With your observational skills, you can see that without understanding science. You know, it always has been, it will be again tomorrow for the next year. Actually, you don't know that. There could be a catastrophe that could change that at some point. You don't know that's always been that way either.
What?
Especially if you believe in evolution, which would say it has not always been.
What she's saying is that it's the problem of induction. This is something David Hume talked about in I think the 1600s is when I think was when he lived. But just because something has worked a certain way for all of the past doesn't mean it's going to work that way tomorrow. And she said, just because the sun has come up every day your entire life, that you can't know with 100% certainty that's going to come up tomorrow. Something could happen that keeps that from happening.
Yeah, but when it comes to the sun, it's more of the one of the most, well, not powerful objects, but it's like it's like for it to not occur is there's basically need to be two things. Like another sun basically deorbits the thing, or one of our planets deorbits us, you know? Or I mean in that scale.
Yeah.
For it
Yeah. I
to,
mean, yeah, it would take a very big, it would take like a black hole or something. But
yeah.
but she's right. We can't inductively prove without any 100% or with 100% certainty that the sun is going to exist tomorrow. We can't do that. And that's the problem
Yeah.
of induction. So she's got a valid point there, but um
I'm just saying that it's a terrible example to say it.
sure.
But whatever.
in that way, so I don't even know if they take the evolutionary position why they're saying this. But anyway, you don't need to believe an angel pushes it along or that God set it in perpetual motion. You don't need to believe that it evolved either by that logic. And then they say, I use software that behaves really strangely. Documentation from the developer doesn't cover what I've learned about its really weird quirks. Well, then the developer slacked off, not the... But that doesn't mean there wasn't a developer. Should people just pretend that the software works normally and complain about it to each other, or should they seek to understand it better? I don't disagree with any of this, but also it's nothing to do with evolution. And can we admit that some behaviors can be well understood even if others are a bit of a black box? Sure, we can admit that. And can we admit that slapping the label God on it is uninteresting and uncurious? No, I don't see how that's the logical conclusion from what you said. I'm okay with saying this doesn't work as it looks like it should, but whatever, it does indeed work the way it does, so I'll document it and maybe someone else will figure out the connection. Okay, to sum it up, they're basically saying that, and I've heard this many times, and it irritates me every time because it is so demonstrably untrue, but I can't blame this person. This is probably just what they have been taught. I don't think they were trying on purpose to be harmful, but this is what they're saying if you take off all the way they dressed it up. They're saying that creationalists, basically, because we can't explain a scientific process, say that God did it, and that's where we stop asking. No. And I don't mean to be rude, because again, I'm not saying this person personally was trying to do this, but that is bull crap. Utter and complete bull crap. Oh, it would be like convenient to believe that. Creationists are holding back science, right? It kind of overlooks the fact that most modern science that actually works was discovered by people who believed in God. That has stood the test of time. It has been modified, but the basic theories have stood the test of time. Not all of it has, but for example, gravity. Isaac Newton was a believer. He was a Christian. Louis Pasteur, who I mentioned previously, Christian. The monk who... I forget his name, but could have been Pasteur as well. Whoever it was, it was a monk, though, who discovered cells, named them after the cells the monks lived in. Christian, obviously, because he was a monk. He could have been, I guess, a Hindu monk, but he wasn't. He was a Catholic, I believe, monk. The list goes on and on and on and on. A lot of what we know about the cosmos, Christians, Galileo, Copernicus, pretty much all of them were Christians. Like, Christians actually corrected the misconceptions that the church was teaching at the time that was made usually by other Christians who had less information. So, yeah, the claim that we Christians don't care about finding explanation and connections for how things work because we can say God did it is idiotic. It is untrue. It is unfounded. There are many cases of Christians finding explanations for things, inventing things, making medical innovations. Christians started the Red Cross, for example. I mean, that's not a medical innovation, but lots of medical innovations have been done by Christians.
That's a lot of things to just, because, sure, the beginnings of the scientific method and the Enlightenment might have been kickstarted by believers and also enhanced it by believers, but you cannot obfuscate the monumental suppression that's been going on historically.
Sure. Yeah, especially when the scientific discovery, like she said, Galileo, but Galileo was like he was he was forced to recant his findings. I think it was, or maybe it was Copernicus. One of those two was forced to recant,
Actually, I think it was both.
and I think one was
But anyway.
executed because he wouldn't, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But
Well, basically, Copernicus got executed, and Galileo was on a house
yeah,
arrest
and
for
like
anyhow.
so like that yeah, Christians have contributed to science. Nobody's denying that. But Christians have also um inhibited science as well. Like they've actively said, well, that doesn't go with what I believe, and therefore it's wrong and we need to get rid of it. They are doing that today with science. If they
Yep.
don't like the science because it conflicts with their religion, they are trying to get rid of it.
Yeah, and that's what
And not because it's
frustrates
bad
me.
science, but because it conflicts
Yeah.
with their religion.
Yeah, and that's what frustrates me with North American history, or at least to a certain degree of like essentially due to the fact that we in North America are removed the from Europe. Um, we kind of missed the whole, well, not the whole, but the theological debates and wars and all that stuff. And yes, we got the cliff notes, but it's like when you ask anybody what's the 30 Years War, what's the 100 Years War, most of the people will really like, I don't know, pretty much, or you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's this topic that I find that frustrating, that like I know that you cannot teach everything, but it's just that it's that specific history of all the like the you know going coming from like I said, the 100 Years War all the way up to the War of Spanish Succession. Those wars are very integral to the modern like ons and goings of why Europe is more secular than most of the Bible Belt and stuff like
Chris?
that.
Oh,
So yeah, I'm here.
okay. Did it again.
Anyway, I don't know why, but anyway, so it's just that that period in history just kind of not exactly explains away, but it gives context to why Europe is more secular, and because it's been grinded down with all the theological baggage and conflicts
Mm-hmm.
that comes from the fallout of those disagreements and so on and so forth. So, but in North America, we don't really talk that much about it because it's not really part of our history, because we've broken off from that, or it's not non-essential.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know. And well, for me, probably it's because I like history and stuff like that. I've basically just been actively been seeking that out, and how actually took a history course for um, of European history a bit, and yeah, that anyhow. Um, but it's like it's that it's that missing of the context of history that kind of gives way to the arrogance, I would say, of the American psyche, that give rise to most of its social problems, as in racism, segregation, slavery, and all the 99 problems that just kind of came out of it. So, but anyway, I digress.
Innovations have been done. All forms of science have been headed a lot by Christians. Now, not every major scientific breakthrough was by Christians, and today many scientists are not Christians. And somebody accused me of using that to justify poor science when I brought that up in a previous video. I'm not saying it justifies poor science. I'm saying that you can be a good scientist and believe in God. They're not mutually exclusive. I talked about that in my Religion is Not Unscientific video. Because science, in a nutshell, deals with the observable world, the material world. God deals with the immaterial world. He can affect the material world, but he is outside of it. Therefore, belief in God does not really hinge on observable material facts.
Ugh. Okay, backpedaling and also just obfuscating, oh, God is in the immaterial, is the antimatter verse, I guess, and it's ugh. Okay.
Well, so in response to our other video, I made the point that if you want to say God is the grounding of existence, that's fine. It doesn't bother me that you do that. In fact, I think that's really the only tenable thing you can do, because if you say God is responsible for some physical effect, phenomenon that we see, right? Eventually, there's a chance that science will come along and they'll explain that. And now you've said, well, God does this thing, and now we say, well, no, God doesn't do this thing, and your God has grown smaller when you do that. And to me, it seems to me strategically, it's a better idea to keep God away from anything that's scientifically investigatable, or even potentially investigatable by science. Keep it in the realm of grounding of existence and stuff, because at least that's never going to be something that science can investigate. Science investigates how, not what.
Yeah. But basically what I'm doing here is kind of decrying the mental gymnastics that's being exercised over here. But that's just
sure. And I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that's what I think is true or whatever. I'm just saying, if I were a Christian, I was thinking strategically, how do I keep my God from becoming something, making false claims that will eventually be proven false. Keeping God in the realm of, God is the nature of reality rather than anything that reality is doing. That's the where you need to keep it.
Yeah.
Sure, you would assume that a God who was at least present in our lives would show up in material events. But that can be disputed, because people could say, well, maybe it wasn't God. Maybe it wasn't. If you're going to dispute the idea of God, you can dismiss it, but that doesn't prove anything. It's just your theory, your personal belief. Because if God is outside the material world, then material events can't really prove or disprove he exists, and even some scientists will admit that that is true. Even some of the people in my comment section.
And that also brings up a problem with any formulation of God, because you can't falsify God. You can't falsify any property of God. So if someone says God is love, okay, that sounds great. And then someone else says, no, God is not love. He's hate. I have no way of saying which one is true. I have no way of testing, is God love or is God hate? And so I can't say God is or is not either of those things. So I don't know. That's the biggest problem I think the Christians have or theists have is unfalsifiability of property. So you can just say anything about the God and you can't say that's not true.
That's true. So my faith from God can exist with or without scientific backing. The whole scientific process, even if the Big Bang was true, doesn't actually eliminate God. It makes a very, very convoluted explanation for how he would work, which I think is dumb, but it doesn't leave out God. I don't ever see why people act like it does. It's it still had to come from somewhere, the material that would have made it. And again, if there is no Big Bang theory, as some people say that, oh, well, that's not evolution. It's okay, but what is your other explanation? That's not God. And they never have one. So I'm okay, so that's your best working scientific explanation. Even it doesn't exclude the need for God. It just makes it more complicated. But that doesn't again, it doesn't solve the problem; it just complicates it. That's all. And again, I think that the Big Bang Theory is scientifically impossible. But again, this is assuming even if like you're not willing to admit that, it does not fix your God problem or God delusion, as some of them call it. So
That's a
politely,
lot
I
of
might add.
projection.
What's that?
That's a lot of projection, in my opinion. But
Well, I
yeah.
think she thinks Big Bang Theory is saying something came from nothing. And Big Bang Theory doesn't say that. It says that T equals Planck time, all the matter that all the matter energy that we have now existed and was expanding. And it doesn't even say what T equals 0 was, because it can't T equals 0 in the lambda CDM just gives a big question mark, and we don't have anything else that can give anything but a question mark at T equals 0. So she's assuming that T equals 0 means nothing was there, but that's not what the Big Bang Theory is saying at all.
But at the end of the day, it's also special pleading in a way, because she's just like, okay, we cannot prove with like distinguishing the causal factor of life versus not non-life, as in you can basically put well the jump between matter that is an inanimate objects, and the transition between the quote unquote what's considered living, as in the micro, like microorganisms, like one cell type of thing. So it's just saying that like she cannot understand the well, well, not the correlation, but the jump from like inanimate object matter to quote unquote what's like life, and then this then there's also the, well, if you want to go further with creationists, there's also the jump between one cell and the
Sure.
multi-cell jump that they are have a very hard time just kind of comprehending that. But that's anyway.
Thank you, Stephen Hawking. But anyway, yeah. So Christians are not against science. Some Christians are, and you know, some atheists do know Christians like that. I know Christians like that. It's not biblical to be against science. It's biblical to be against false science. That is biblical, but it's not biblical to explore explanations, to study the world. Even the Bible talks about people who studied nature and observed it. David like writes about it in the Psalms. You know, there was a doctor in one of Jesus' disciples, so that's studying the medical natural world at the very least. Yeah, Bible's not against science. It's not against the pursuit of science, the pursuit of knowledge. In fact, there's a whole book called Proverbs saying get wisdom and get understanding several times.
It's so funny to me where she says the Bible isn't against science, but evolution, Big Bang Theory, abiogenesis, what else has she mentioned? Stellar synthesis. All of those are just silly because they don't match up with what makes sense to me because of the Bible.
Yeah, like I said, special pleading. So
yeah.
Throughout it, study, learn, observe. But Ecclesiastes talks about how the king spent his life observing things. It didn't make him happy, like with many scientists I notice, but he did. He spent his life observing, trying to get wisdom and understanding. The Bible is very pro getting knowledge for the right reasons. It does issue a cautionary warning that knowledge does make you proud, and pride leads to destruction. That's just true. There's no debating that the science, which is the pursuit of knowledge, often does lead people to do very, very evil and destructive things. It doesn't always. Most often, though, the scientists who do not fall into that trap are the religious ones. Not always, but most often. Now, again, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian Science to like.
Did she just say that most non-Christian scientists are fall into like mass murder or something like that?
I think she did. And
that's a really bizarre claim.
That's disgusting at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
But also, I kind of have to just kind of like add a little bit of a thing. The knowledge that's kind of like sprung from like Christianity is also inherited by the like those that came before, which were, well, categorically pagans, but Socrates, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like the Greek philosophers. So they can't say that it's, oh, we invented it like it from a new thing, or like like the research of philosophy and stuff like that, or those questions that they answered over the generations. They can't claim it that it comes from not comes from nothing, but pun intended. But it's just that, sorry, like I said, it's inherited knowledge from those who came before. So I don't know why you have to put the exceptionalism flag all all over this. But anyway, I digress.
Be a good scientist. Like, please do not twist my words. It is not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying, again, that it's possible to be a lover of science, to be a Christian. There are many people who are. I like science myself, and I'm a Christian. I find science really interesting, fascinating. I wouldn't want to be a scientist because I don't find the idea of testing and hypothesizing all the time super enriching for me. But I do like reading about it, hearing about it, and I generally can understand it pretty well. And that has got nothing to do with whether or not it's valid. It's just that I don't see it in conflict with my beliefs, and Christian scientists don't either. So that assumption he's making off the bat is not true. Plenty of Christians seek for the explanations of things just because they believe God made it. In fact, they would say that because God made it, they believe that there is a logic to how it works, and they want to find that logic. And they want to understand it. And most often it comes back around to confirming what the Bible already taught us. I've mentioned a couple examples of that in previous videos. There's massive evidence for a flood. The Bible talks about that. The Bible's not the only book that does. It's not the only culture that talks about it. There's over 200 legends of the flood around the world. But the Bible does provide the most detailed explanation. The Bible provides medical advice that actually works and has been confirmed to this day. It was not commonly used back then, like the practice of quarantining, isolation, cleansing yourself after touching.
It's so bizarre to me when Christians will bring up, that the Bible says to wash your hands before you eat, or to quarantine when you're sick, and say, look, God told them that the only way they could know this was if they had special knowledge from God. It's a weird kind of prejudice to say these ancient people could not look at cause and effect and could not see that the people who washed their hands didn't get sick, or the people that were sick, if you stayed away from them, you didn't get sick. Like, of course they could see that. That's not a hard thing to see. And denying that it's like a weird kind of, I don't want to say it's racism because it's not race based, but it's like racism.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I think it was like what the miasma, like before the discovery of
Yeah.
microorganisms. It was the provincial theory was that like miasmas and the humors and all that, all that comes from alchemy
Yeah.
branch of stuff. Just like, yeah, that kind of like explains some of the stuff, but it doesn't like explain everything.
Well,
And it, anyway,
what we're talking
it's,
about is they see something, they see if you do something, it has an effect. And they're trying to explain why that effect is what it is, and they get the wrong explanation. But they still see the connection between isolating yourself and other people not getting sick.
yeah,
And that's whether, regardless
mhm,
of whether you know why, if you know that isolating yourself means other people don't get sick, you're going to enforce isolating
yeah,
yourself when you're sick. That's just basic, like a basic thing people are going to do, and it's not surprising, and it's not special that they recognize this. It doesn't seem so anyway.
yeah,
Infectious things. So this guy's whole accusation to me that we're willing to just accept not knowing because we can say God, no. When Christians say that you can be content not knowing if you have faith, what we're generally talking about, in fact, I don't think I've ever heard this applied to a scientific conundrum. what we apply that to is difficulties in life, hardship, because the fact is, and science can't help with this either, we don't know why a lot of bad things happen. I mean, you could trace some like diseases, malfunctioning equipment, perhaps, but why it happens to you specifically, science can't always answer that. And even if it could kind of explain it, it's like there's always exceptions, there's always anomalies. It's not really predictable. So we say like you don't have to have understanding if you have faith. What we mean is we believe that there is a reason for this. We just don't know what it is. And most of us want to someday know the reason. I know that I certainly do when I go.
That's weird. So like she's saying, well, you don't know the reason and I don't know the reason. But I get to believe that there's a purpose for this happening. And like I don't know that makes it better or worse. And I don't really know what that gets you. Like, I guess it gets.
Well, I think that she's.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think that she's presupposing that everything, like from the teaching, that everything has a purpose. So, so just because stuff happened, then it has to have a purpose, or that's I think the mentality uh, of this of her thinking, like, and that's a little bit insulting to me, because for me, I think I think I told you this and many others in the community that I basically was sorry. I have
Yeah.
cerebral palsy, but to imply that everything suffering has a purpose, you're kind of implying that essentially I have cerebral palsy because my purpose in life is X, or or I was destined to have cerebral palsy because
Well,
X.
it's not just that. It's saying God gave you cerebral palsy for his reasons. Like that sounds really bad to me.
So like it's a very sadistic,
Yeah.
very like messed up way to say this, and I'm sorry if I bring it up playing I'm playing that card, over the poker table, but it's just something that's not, like, stuff happens, okay, and there's no reason for it. There's no cosmological plan. It's just shit happens, and you deal with the consequences of those stuff. Anyway,
through suffering, but we accept that we may not know it right away. It may take years. It may take till we die, even till we know. And I find that dealing with that kind of uncertainty is hard for atheists and agnostics. So they prefer to pretend that saying that nothing matters, that everything is subjective, everything is relative, is the easier, more satisfying, more comforting explanation. If that works for them, I suppose that they probably won't be talked out of it. But
projection.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what her point is. Like, I don't know. I guess to me, I can see how there not being a purpose. I can see both sides of it. I can see why you thinking, hey, I've got the cerebral palsy, but there's a reason I've got it. There's a cosmic purpose in it. I can see how that'd be comforting. But I can also see the opposite side where, like, it's just happened and things happen, and it wasn't someone doing this to me. Like, I can see how that would also be comforting. Because like I certainly would hate to think, well, yeah, I mean, God did this to me. So that's just kind of sucks. Like that wouldn't be a good feeling. I wouldn't enjoy that feeling. Anyway,
I don't find it a comforting explanation to think that everything doesn't matter. I don't find it a plausible explanation that everything doesn't matter, because I don't understand how you could even understand what mattering what worth actually is unless it existed. And if nothing mattered, our brains wouldn't have any standard for meaning.
No, that's not true. Like the way we derive, or the way I derive meaning and value is I evaluate things based on my own preferences. If I prefer something, it's valuable to me, and it doesn't bother me that it's not valuable to you, right? It,
Yeah.
you don't have to value the same things I do, and it's not wrong for you not to.
And there's also it's not a fallacy, but the fact that she goes from life needs to have purpose, and since the quote unquote atheists, or that are on that side of the fence, um, don't see purpose in anything, then it means then all thing is meaningless, and then they just kind of go into the nihilist trap of everything is go like everything is pointless, so why bother, so just like keel over and die type of thing. And I understand that, like, somebody who is who has like a profound faith can find this disturbing, but the well, at least how I interpret it is that, sure, life is shitty, just gotta get back up, and and go get her, and you do that until probably the end of, well, not on the end of time, but until you can no longer, as in like you physically
Yeah.
die and all that stuff. But it's just that what I'm saying is that the fact that theists kind of go through life, you need to have to go to have a purpose. Then if purpose is taken away, then nothing is worth. But their theological, sorry, their mindset is that once you hit nihilism, there it's a dead end, and they just don't process the possibility that you just go you just kind of continue.
Yeah. Well, and also,
Anyway.
like they're in a way they're doing a disservice to, and we know this to be the case, that there are theists, and it's increasing all the time. The rate is increasing. There are theists that are going to deconvert. They're not going to be theists any longer, and that's increasing as we get more access to information. That rate is increasing. This focus that you must derive your purpose from a higher power is doing a disservice to them, these people that deconvert, because when they deconvert, they don't have any kind of framework for deriving purpose. They end up with a purposeless life, at least sometimes. I've heard people talk about how they felt life was meaningless, and it's sad because they weren't given the tools to derive meaning from anything other than this one thing that they no longer believe in.
Yeah, but it's just, well, sorry, it's more of a thing is that you kneecap the tools to go your own way out of the sandbox
Yeah.
that you're given.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Anyway.
And people say, well, they imagine it. I don't know how you can imagine something that doesn't exist, like in any form or capacity. People can hallucinate things, but they hallucinate based off stuff that they have seen, or stuff that is a combination of things they've seen. You don't hallucinate an entirely unknown thing or concept. That's all I have to say. The guy is he's incorrect about all Christians. The fact that some Christians do what he's saying doesn't mean that Christianity itself is for or against science. It's not to that person's field of interest, really. But if you really care about the Christian perspective on science, go to the Christians who actually care about it. That to me just makes sense. It's like I'm not going to go to a cat person to talk about dogs. I'm going to go to a dog person to talk about dogs. We might all be animal lovers, but we have a field of interest. That might seem like an oversimplification, but I think you can get the point I'm making, so let's move on.
All right. It's been just under 2 hours. That's about all the time I have for tonight. Uh, I want to thank
Yeah.
you, Chris, for coming on, and Robin earlier. If you come back and listen to this, thanks for coming on for a little bit. Um, and
Yeah. Sorry if I stalled the
oh
whole
no,
thing. Probably I could have.
I when I saw that it was an hour long, I expected I wouldn't get through the whole thing. And that's fine. That's
Okay. So, but in the spirit of going through the title, if God is eternal, why
why
can't
can't the
he
universe
be
be?
the.
Sure.
Yeah. So, in my head, the universe is the closest thing that we could call God, but that's just it's like a as an
Mm-hmm.
observation, you know. In the grand scheme of things, we're just bacteria on a
Sure.
rock that's, you know, fumbling around a star. And yeah, but that's just like me doing pedantics.
Y- Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. My stance is there. It seems to me that if the laws of logic are in fact universal, and I don't know that they are, but if they are in fact universal, then um, something must be eternal. But I have no way of assessing what that is. It I don't see why it couldn't be the universe. I don't see why it couldn't be a god. I don't see why it couldn't be something else. There's a whole bunch of different theories about what's going on at the singularity that's of the Big Bang. And right now we have just no way of even preferring even one of those explanations. And until we do, I'm just going to look at them and say, all of those seem like good options to me. And at some point, I will maybe we will have more knowledge and be able to say, yep, this one doesn't work, that one doesn't work. These work. So,
yeah.
uh,
Anyway,
so thanks for coming on though, and I'm going to go ahead and end it here.
yeah.
Yeah, no
Thanks for
problem.
having me.
I like having you on.
Okay. I'll just
Yeah,
let
sure thing.
myself out
Later.
later.